Heat up your frozen dinners, grab your TV tray, and settle in for another episode of the Plus Platoon, your podcast for all things Disney Plus, brought to you by Disney Plus fans. Watch along with us every week as we cover all the new, the old, the good, and the bad on Disney Plus. So put down that remote, don't touch that dial, and welcome your fabulous Plus Platoon host.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Plus Platoon. We're a Disney Plus fan podcast that gives honest, spoiler-filled reviews of movies and shows on Disney Plus. We'll look at new releases, coming attractions, and we'll even go back into the vault to revisit some of the classic Disney that's on the platform. Make sure you're subscribed and you will never miss a moment. I'm going to bring in Kate. Kate, good to see you this evening.
Good to see you too, brother.
Next, we've got Pete. Pete, glad to have you with us.
Hey everyone, brought my cup of hot cocoa.
I was wondering what you were gonna say.
I'm just wondering, what it had in it. Irish cocoa, Scottish cocoa.
A little bit of something, maybe. Tequila.
And the last, but certainly not least, we got Steve. Steve, glad to have you with us.
Glad to be here.
Guys, if you have not already, please like, subscribe, share. We got a couple fun shows coming up that we will tell you guys about. But this week, we are watching Coco. Coco centers around the Day of the Dead, which in Mexican culture is basically the day to remember the ancestors that have come before you, as opposed to the ancestors that come after you. Yes,
right.
Yes.
But the ones that have passed, though.
Yes. And typically November 1st and 1st into 2nd-ish, like night of the 31st to like the dawn of the 3rd is really kind of, depending on who you talk to, is right in there is the Day of the Dead, though. Most people either do it on the 1st or the 2nd. So, and I've seen it both places. So, watch Coco. Coco centers around a family who, the matriarch of the family was married to a musician who, the story is, went off, left his family, and never returned, and therefore his family has completely outlawed music. Well, his great-great-great-grandson, I think,
yes,
is
great. I think two greats.
It's either two or three. Yeah, it's two greats. Anyway, I'm not sure it's that great, but has figured out that he absolutely loves music, wants to perform, is enraptured with a best term is for a pop idol of the kind of a mariachi type performer. This reminds me like it would have been done in like the 70s, because a lot of the older movies are like black and white, although if that was a great, it would be recent. So never mind.
Yeah, to me, I think it's supposed to be like a Roy Rogers kind of thing, where like he was a singer and he played in a bunch of movies and that type of character that was was singer but also famous for being in different kinds of entertainment.
Right. So anyway, our main character, who is not Coco, actually, Coco is his grandmother.
Great grandmother.
Great grandmother. Yes, my apologies. Wow. Guys, it's been a week.
It's a lot of family there.
There's a lot of family, and it's not even madrigals. So, but I wonder if they would, never mind. Anyway, so he steals the guitar from the grave of this singer that he is so enthralled with. And by doing that, gets transported to the other side of the Day of the Dead. So he is into the land of the ancestors then. And it's all about him needing to get the blessing from a family member who he is sure is it Ernesto?
Ernesto de la Cruz.
Ernesto de la Cruz. He is sure that is his great-great-grandfather. So he's going because he wants to be a musician, and he finds his other family members there, and they do not approve of him being a musician. So he goes to try and find Ernesto and is taken under the wing of Hector, who we eventually come to find out is actually his great-great-grandfather, who had all of his songs stolen by Ernesto.
That's the big plot twist.
And Ernesto murdered him.
Also the big plot twist.
To stop him from leaving, which is really dark for a Disney movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then it's all about how he has to get back to make sure, because his great-grandmother Coco was the only one who actually remembers his great-great-grandfather. And if they're forgotten, they disappear from the land of the dead. So he goes back, and against everyone in his family's wishes, he plays this lullaby for his grandmother that his great-great-grandfather wrote for her, and it makes her remember him. And it comes to find out she actually has a picture of him that has been torn out of the family's altar is the wrong word, but you guys get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Shrine, more or less.
a year later, she has passed, but all of the family is remembered by the present family. So that's a very long and convoluted way of explaining the story. However, it's shorter than the 5-minute dialogue that they have to try and set up the movie at the beginning, which I will get to in here just a little bit. But Pete, I'm going to start with you. What about this movie hits the right notes?
I think there's a lot of things. I think the one thing that to me is the world that it builds, the world of the land of the dead, how how the dead come across, setting up that whole the traditions of the Mexican culture of the Day of the Dead, and then how the world looks like when he incorporates into the land of the Day of the Dead. It's very stacked housing on top of each other, and there's like not trolleys, but like sky cable cars everywhere, or and all these magical beings as well, and all the dead people are in the form of skeletons. So there's a lot of jokes around them falling apart and hitting each other and everything like that. That's a lot of where the humor comes from. And I think they did a really good job of like setting up that world and making you feel like that it was really, this is what it could be like. So the other thing I'd like to comment on is I did like most of the songs. I think the songs were very solid. I think this was the Lopez's again. If I remember correctly, seeing in the credits, at least they were involved with it.
Remind us what else they did.
Frozen.
Okay.
Yeah. And they did the Agatha All Along songs as well. So they've been pretty involved with a lot of Disney over the last 10 years. But yeah, they're most famous probably for Frozen. So I'll just stop at that, and I'll leave it for others to add to their opinions if they have any. So Steve, what about you?
I think it's the animation. I remember when I first saw this in the theater and just being blown away by the animation. Even on the small screen, like you said, all like the little details and stuff are just quite amazing. I also enjoyed like the beginning, how they use the Mexican banners. I know there's a name for it. I can't remember what it is. Of quickly telling the story, setting up the story. And just the ending, for me, it's right up there with the opening of Up. The just ending few minutes of the story really hit home. Really enjoyed that. So those are the two really standouts for me. So
okay, yeah, I'll take it next. It's funny, I agree with everything that was said. I do think that this animation is beautiful. Miguel is such a lovable character. You really you really feel for him. You really like just kind of fall in love with him. The character that just stole my heart was Hector. I just like I don't even have a good reason as to why. I wanted a little bit more of Hector. I just wanted to stay with him. Music was good. Is Ernesto, is that the name of the villain?
Yeah.
Yes.
He's pretty easy to hate. So I found, I think he was a decent villain. I can see why they bring him out or brought him out. I don't know if they had him this year at Oogie Boogie Bash in Disneyland. Overall, I didn't hate it. I don't hate it.
Okay.
Well, I'll get there.
Right.
Go ahead,
And,
Derek.
and I don't see how you guys have not mentioned Dante, the dog.
Oh.
I mean, as far as animal sidekicks, one of the best that Pixar has done.
Fair.
And just some of the other jokes in this. It's a funny movie.
It's a funny movie. Yeah.
Which it has to be to make up for the last 5 minutes. But because the last 5 minutes, there's no way around it, guys. The last 5 minutes is sad. The last 5 minutes is, if you are not crying, you've never cried at any Disney movie. I mean, this, to me, especially, and I think as all of us have, having lost people who are important to us.
Yeah.
The beginning wasn't so bad when they had all the pictures. But when great grandma Coco dies, and her remembering him and seeing her fade and all of a sudden come back, and then she's gone, which I'm not sure why she's old in the end.
Well, I think you're
Is it the
I
age
think
you
you're
are
in
when
whatever
you
form
die?
you are when you die. Yeah.
Or is it the form you are in the picture, I wonder?
Oh, good
I
question.
bet it. I almost
That
bet
is a good question.
because it's usually the same clothes and everything. So I bet it's the form they are in the picture. So anyway, yeah, for the most part, I really like this movie. So,
I want to add something because I forgot. I love that there was a hint that it was Hector was the grandfather from the very beginning. And I picked it up I didn't catch it the first time I watched it, and this time it hit me of his guitar has a gold tooth and Hector has a gold tooth.
Oh, I
and
did
the
not
guitar
pick
has
that
a
up.
gold tooth missing, and that's where Hector's tooth is.
Yeah, that's what it is. Where it was like, oh, okay, yeah.
I mean, there are, and the drawing on the guitar head is the same drawing that's on Hector's face. So there are hints that it is not Ernesto, that it is Hector.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, no one other than Miguel says it's Ernesto, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm curious why his great-great-grandmother, when he's talking about Ernesto, why his great-grandmother doesn't say anything.
I think they do it in such a way that he never says to her.
Does he never say Ernesto in front of her?
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
I was kind of watching that this time, and I think he never says that he thinks it's his great-grandfather or great-great-grandfather in front of her. So I think that's how they avoid it.
Because I would admit, this is one of the few things. This is my first time watching it, so I had never seen it because it came out in 2017, and to be perfectly honest, my dad had just died in 2016. So anything along these lines, I was not watching.
Yeah, this would be a rough movie to watch right after somebody passed.
Right. So
though again, it's a very
positive spin on death.
It's a sad, right. There's a sad moment at the end, but it's not really. It's sad, but in an uplifting way.
Yes.
And other than that, it's not a particularly sad movie. It's not. It's not one that has a bunch of moments in it. It's really just that one moment at the end. And I don't know how you make it through that without tearing up. I didn't, and I knew it was coming. So
yeah. So, although there are still parts of Disney movies that I have watched for dozens of times that I still tear up at.
Oh,
so,
That's why we will never watch Fox and the Hound on this platform. Ever.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. I just
You won't allow it. Yeah, no, that I could see.
No.
I could
I
see
just
where
don't
that
like
movie
the
would do
movie.
it.
I've never seen it, but I know about
Don't
the
do
ending,
it.
so.
Don't
It's
do
like where
it.
it's like where the red fern grows. Just no.
No.
Okay.
Okay. That being said, what about this movie will haunt us? What wasn't so great? And Kate, I'm going to let you start on this one.
Yeah, so I've been thinking about because we always get asked what we like, what we didn't like. And the thing is, it's not, I didn't not like this movie, but it is so hard for me to not compare Coco to Encanto. And I think just because of that Latin feel to it, and it's just so hard for me to not compare those two movies. And this movie just does not pull me in and get the earworms like Encanto does. So I understand that that's not Coco's fault. I think overall, I don't have a lot of negative things to give this. It's just so hard for me when Encanto, in my opinion, is so good. It's hard for me to not compare the two. I probably won't want now. It is no secret. I am the resident tenderheart on this Platoon. I get very sad and emotional over things. So when Coco came out, I didn't see Coco until you said it came out in 2017.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't see it until like last year for the first time because all I heard from anybody was, "Oh my God, the song Remember Me." Like, you're just gonna cry. It's so sad. And I was like, well, guess I'm not watching that movie. So I didn't watch it for the longest time. When I finally did, I think it's because my husband was like, please watch this with me. I don't have anything inherently super negative to say, except that it's so hard for me to not compare it and Encanto. And I love Encanto. I will watch Encanto repeatedly. Which isn't, but that's not Coco's fault. I don't know if what I'm making any sense. You go ahead, Pete.
Well, I would agree with what you're saying. This movie doesn't have major flaws.
Right.
Like there aren't things you can point to and go, oh, this just doesn't make sense,
Right.
or this part is stupid, or it's boring, or anything like that. I think it's just, and I rate this movie very highly, but the movie is just a little thin. There's not much to it, right? It's just like Miguel accidentally ends up in the land of the dead, and they use an excuse in that they make him swear off music so that he can't go back without going on this little quest. And he goes on the little quest and finds out who his real father is. And that's all. Again, it's all very nice, but it's just
not an hour 40-minute movie.
Yeah,
Right.
it's just a little, but there's not parts of the movie that are boring either. But it's just a little bit of a thin plot of a movie. So I don't. It doesn't quite bring the movie up to like stellar heights to me. I don't know what it is. I said I'm going to give this a good grade. I am. I really enjoy this movie. I think I was the one that suggested we do it as opposed to like another Halloween movie. But it's I think it prevents it from being one of Pixar's great movies. So, Steve, what do you think?
I agree somewhat with what you're saying. I think the middle part needs to be tightened up. I feel like there was a lot going on there, and they sort of last track, like Derek was saying, an hour and 40. They could have dropped it down to an hour and 30 and still had a great movie. There was a lot going on. I think like the little mislead with I guess it would be the great grandma, is that right?
Mhm.
In the land of the dead, not wanting music. But I think they jumped right in with him going after Ernesto, and along the way finding out the twist. So, I mean, that was my biggest thing. I mean, I really like this movie. I hadn't seen it in a while, and it's like, wow, this was a really enjoyable movie. So, yeah.
Yeah, I
Like-
mean, one of my biggest criticisms is I get where the old Disney movies would do the book thing where they would talk about and they would tell you the setup. But on this one, that literally lasted 5 minutes. The first 5 minutes of the movie was the narration of everything that was happening, that had happened, instead of show me what
Instead
happened.
of how Up did it, where they showed you.
Right.
Or in Kanto where they
the
had a
other
song.
movie where they showed us.
Or in Kanto, where they had a song.
Or
Right.
yeah, or just, but him just basically the boys' voiceover talking, that really turned me off at the beginning of this movie, and it made it hard for me then to immediately connect with it, to be perfectly honest.
That's fair.
I also, the songs are okay. There's not really any, as you said, Kate, there's not really any earworms in this
Yeah.
at all. Remember Me, if you don't listen to the lyrics, is an okay song. It's a decent melody, but it's not something along the lines of Part of Your World, where it's not the motivation behind what the character does, and it's not Under the Sea, where it's a big upbeat, even like Family Madrigal, or I mean, it's just, if we're talking about how great the music is, and it's the same team that did Frozen.
So I looked it up. The only song they wrote was Remember Me. The rest of the songs were written by other people associated with, and Michael, I can never say his name, Giancino.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
To me, the songs are forgettable, to be perfectly honest. They work in it. I mean, the upbeat one that he sings as his talent show song is upbeat, but that's all I can tell you about it. And it begins with the I or whatever. It's
my favorite song is probably the one which I think he sings to at the party with Ernesto, but I'm not 100% sure on it. But it's the one that they used in.
That's the same one he did in the talent show.
No, it's actually a different one. It's because it's the one that's in Philharmagic now.
No,
the new
I have not
scene
seen it since this
scene
came to Philharmagic.
You haven't seen the new Philharmagic? Oh,
I've not seen the new Philharmagic. Now, in my defense, it's only been there a couple years, and I've only been like once in the last couple years. So, I think last time I was in Philharmagic was 22, and it's been since then that they replaced it.
Yeah, it's only been a couple years.
So, but
I like that song, but yeah, I would say, and I said, Remember Me is memorable because they play it like 5 times.
Yeah. Like they're trying to have it be a great song, and it just doesn't work.
Right.
To me, the most interesting song that I wanted to know more about was the song that Ernesto and the great grandmother sang. I want to know what that song was and what it was talking about, and I haven't been able to find it. I mean, I'm sure if I look somewhere, I just finished watching this movie, in full disclosure, about an hour before we started filming.
Mm-hmm.
So I've not had a chance to look all that up. But to me, that's the song I want to know more about, because it was slow and it was fast. And you could tell there was something, they were talking about something that wasn't quite, it wasn't a love song. It wasn't anything. It was just, you could almost tell like they were singing something. It sounded like they were singing something, like using the wrong words type thing to talk to each other. I mean, it's just, anyway. So, yeah, but I mean, again, I did not dislike this movie, but there were certain things that just bugged me about it. So, okay, guys, having, with Day of the Dead being on Friday this week, I want to know, if you could, is there a relative that has passed that you would love to go back and be able to talk to? So, Steve, I'll start with you on this one.
Oh, this is so hard. It's between my mom, who passed away about 3 years ago, or my grandpa, who had his birthday the day before mine. And my birthday is New Year's Day. He was New Year's Eve. And anytime we were together, we'd always do a big celebration. I had a close connection with him. So it'd probably be my grandpa, I guess.
Yeah, for me, it would be either my dad, so I could tell him everything that's gone on in the last 8 years and just get his opinion on some things. But my initial response was my grandfather, my mom's dad, who had so many stories and had so much good advice for me that I could so have used. He passed away about 3 days after my wife and I got married. So he died back in 2002. Better get that year right. But to be able to talk to him and ask his advice I would have been talking to him so much, and I think my life would have been a lot different if he had been still around. But that's who I would say. Kate, how about you?
Yeah, so my mom's side of my family, her last name is Pastorino. And so my family is quite Italian. And my great grandparents, my grandpa's mom and dad, immigrated from Italy. No, yes. My great grandparents and then my great great grandparents all immigrated from Italy. And they were candy makers. And I would love to, they had Pastorino's Candy Kitchen. And their friends, I always get this wrong, but I don't think we're related, had the Shipicassi Candy Kitchen. And so I would love to sit and hear their story of why they decided to immigrate from Genoa, Italy, what it was like to be candy makers at that time. It was no recipes. Everything was just, everyone knew how to make candy. And my great grandpa would dress up as Santa, but he couldn't say anything because he had such a thick Italian accent that everyone would have known it was him. So he didn't say like ho 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 or anything because people would have known it was him. And so that is who I would talk to. I am named after Kate, my great Greg, I lost count, is Katerina. And so I'm named after her. And I just, I think that their story would be really fascinating. So that is who I would meet with. Pete, what about you?
Yeah, it would have to be my my grandmother on my mother's side, who spent a lot of time with as a child. My mom was a single mom for a while, not that long. She remarried, but both my parents worked, so I spent a lot of time at my grandparents, and I was really close to my grandmother. And she passed away when I was in grad school, so I was only like 23 or something like that when she passed away. And just like, just to let her know how my life turned out or whatever, that would be, I think, who I would want to talk to. I don't know, this is a tough one.
This is one that kind of gets you in the feels. So,
yeah I mean, there's a few people I could name, but that would probably be the first person I would choose. So
that's fair. So
yeah.
So as we always do, cups of pixie dust out of 5 for Coco. Kate, I'm going to start with you.
2.5. What did I rate Encanto?
4.5.
Make this a 3.
Okay. Pete?
This movie's I'm gonna give it a 4. I really do enjoy it. As I said, it's not quite up in there with the greatest Pixar movies, but and I've only seen it, this might be the 3rd time I've seen it, so it's not one I've gone back to a lot, but I do enjoy it. And it's a movie that I think if someone 6 months from now said, oh, let's watch Coco, I'd be like, yeah, I'll watch that. So 4. Steve?
I'm with Pete, 4. And I'm just beginning to wonder if it's this older thing of having just more possibly loss where people have passed, of where it maybe hits home a little bit more. I'm just wondering, because hearing what Kate's response, but
More,
4.
yeah, the mortality. Yeah.
And for me, it's a 3. So it's I couldn't quite go 3.5, but it's if I had to go 3 versus 3.5, it's right there. It's right there on the line for me, to be perfectly honest. Like a 3.25 would be what I would probably honestly give it, but because it's better than some of the stuff I've given a 3 lately, but it's not as good as a couple of the things I've given a 3.5 lately. So a 3, but as Pete said, it's 6 months. Someone says, "Can we watch Encanto?" Awesome. I'll be leaving during the last 10 minutes, but I
You
mean,
mean Coco?
yeah,
he
Coco.
meant
Yeah,
Coco.
if someone says, "Can we watch Coco?" I said, "Sure," but we'll literally once he comes back, I'm either going to be in my phone or not paying super close attention.
I have to say, it doesn't. The first time seeing it in the theaters, it hit me the hardest. Subsequent watches, knowing it was coming, it wasn't as bad. That's the one
fair.
thing I would say.
That's
So,
fair.
I agree with that, Pete. Yeah, I knew it was coming, and it still hit. So
yeah, it still hits, but not as like in the theater. It was like, oh,
And it's a different hit than some of the other Disney. This is a real sadness type hit versus like, yes, you tear up when she says "I love you" to the Beast. Yeah, honestly, I still do, but that is so much of a different Disney tear up than this.
Yeah.
right.
So, okay, we don't have any Disney Plus news for this week, which is weird, but just there's nothing came out. So, next week we're going to have a show all dedicated to the Agatha All Along finale. We're going to talk about the entire series. I know we've got 3 people here very, very excited about it. If you have not seen it yet, go to our YouTube and our Facebook channels. We have done we did a finale preview episode. So if you still haven't seen it, but then we did a live watch along where as stuff was happening, we were commenting on it. So if you want to see what we thought of it first time and go along with that, great. If you just want to hear kind of a summary of what we said, listen to us and watch us next week as far as what we thought for the Agatha All Along finale. Guys,
the watch along is episodes 8 and 9.
Yes, watch along. Last 2 episodes. So, guys, if you have not already have suggestions for us, please message us at plusplatoon@gmail.com. Rest of this calendar year is pretty well booked, but there's not a lot coming out in January and February. So, send us suggestions, especially if you want to be on and talk with us about something. We answer all the messages on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, everything. We have new episodes Thursdays on YouTube and all the major podcasting services. For Kate, Pete, and Steve, Gina, we miss you. We love you. We hope you can come back soon. We will see everyone next week. Bye, guys.
Thanks for watching this week's episode of the Plus Platoon. Be sure to subscribe to the Plus Platoon podcast to keep getting great content each week. Then head over to Apple Podcast and leave those 5-star reviews, as they help make the Plus Platoon visible to even more Disney Plus fans. Also, go to YouTube and like and subscribe to the Plus Platoon channel, where you can watch all future episodes live. If you have a question for the Plus Platoon, please send us an email to plusplatoon@gmail.com or connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram @plusplatoon.
The Plus Platoon is a Disney Plus fan podcast and is not affiliated with the Walt Disney Company or the Disney Plus streaming service. All opinions expressed on the show are solely those of the individual hosts and in no way reflect the views of the Walt Disney Company.
Thanks for watching, and be sure to stay tuned for next week's episode, because the Plus Platoon is to be continued.